welcome to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Herzog.
Good evening, I'm Miles P. McLaughlin.
I'm Chrissy Raffensperger.
And I'm Dave Sellers.
And tonight we are talking about the last 6 episodes of Andor. In the past episode, we talked about the first 6 episodes. We said, why not? Let's do the last 6. And I am glad that we're doing this because we are in for a treat. We're in for a treat in our discussion, and I'm excited about it. We made some predictions and about what we thought was going to happen in the next 6 episodes, and we will talk about those as well. Yeah, so how do you want to start this off, Dave? Miles?
Well, I guess we could talk about predictions. I knew some people were not long for this world, and so, but there are people that survived that surprised me though too.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to spoil stuff tonight. So we know that was it Luthien that he gets knocked off in the last 3 episodes, and that's an interesting story arc through it.
Yes.
I
enjoyed some backstory.
Yeah.
Yes, the backstory was great. I enjoyed that people acknowledged their complicated relationship with this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, he tried to kill me, but let's not let that detract from his good qualities.
I don't know. I think that would detract from his good qualities in my book. Just saying.
In our world, it would. But maybe in
murder among friends.
But I don't know. This is the resistance, and I guess you have to know people's loyalties.
What is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, or whatever it is.
The loyalty was to the cause, and there was nothing came above the cause.
Yeah.
Even for Luthien.
Yeah, and I thought this was an interesting, I think one of my favorite episodes is when they go when who's the girl that infiltrates the medical facility that they're trying to keep Luthien alive when he tries to commit suicide.
Oh yeah.
Who is that?
Is that Clea?
Yeah. Or it's not. No, that wasn't Bix. It was
Clea.
Yeah, it was Clea. So that whole scene, her doing that and the way she did it was just badass. I loved it. I loved the way that episode developed. And so even in his death, he did a phenomenal acting job playing dead, by the way, in that episode. I loved it.
And the second time now in Star Wars that they have canonized E.T. as part of the Star Wars universe.
Absolutely.
What scene was E.T. in? I missed it.
Oh, E.T. He was the one that Clea was pushing around the hospital.
Oh,
yeah.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he did have some. He wasn't totally E.T., but he looked. But he had E.T.
He was
vibes.
definitely a relative. It's definitely
Yeah.
the same universe. Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
But
Just like you saw him in episode 1. Was it episode 1?
Yeah, one of the episodes we saw him in.
Yeah, saw all 3 of them.
Yeah.
In the Senate.
That's right.
Yeah, you did see him in the Senate. I think we can safely say that's most likely not the same E.T. because it says Star Wars took place in a galaxy a long time ago, far away.
No, but it'd be the same race, right?
Yeah, same race.
Yeah.
That's right. That works. It works. So that of course leads up to Dave and I were talking about this morning. It leads into these last 3 episodes where it's fantastic. Them going to then rescue Clea. That whole rescue scene is fantastic. K2 just shines in this, and it's just Alan Tudyk's best, and I loved it.
And they showed the capability of these kind of droids. I mean, we saw on Gorman when was it Gorman or was
yeah, Gorman.
They released a bunch of these and just If you got grabbed by one of these things, you're done. This thing is going to just throw you, and you're going to hit the pavement with a lot of force and not get back up.
Do you know one of the most eerie scenes for me in these 6 episodes, with those droids, is when I don't know, the one guy that ends up turning to the Resistance because he doesn't like what the Empire's doing, the boyfriend of that one Imperial lady. Um, he when he walks into the room with 6 of them, and K2 is just staring at him. I was like, oh, I was like, bad.
Menacingly.
Yeah, I know. Of course, there's not much of an expression the droid can have, but menacingly. But
Right.
Very.
but yes.
I mean, so I didn't watch it because I've been super busy with work and everything else. But you guys are talking about this droid, like, but it sounds like it's more advanced than what we saw in episodes 1, 2, and no, sorry, in episodes 4, 5, and 6. I don't know about you, but sometimes I don't always like seeing more, like, almost
So
seemingly
so
more
K2
advanced stuff.
K2 didn't show up until the last 6 episodes. We didn't see it.
He
And
was in Rogue One.
yeah, he's in Rogue One, and I watched Rogue One, and he transfers pretty seamlessly in that. They did a nice job with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even in Rogue One, I still was questioning, like, okay, so if they had this droid, why wouldn't I have seen it in the past? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Well, they introduce him as like new droids, right, in Andor, right?
Yeah.
He's some kind of tactical droid.
But my point is
So why
that
don't we see them
demonstrating.
then in like A New Hope? Well, that's like 70s, but
Retroactive continuity.
there you go.
See, but that's my problem, is that they don't always look at the continuity and say to themselves,
No, this is an argument, Dave, and everyone else here, for rebooting the original trilogy and bringing that into the original trilogy and making it and increasing the continuity. All for it. Thank you, Chrissy, for the vote.
No, I'm saying that perhaps we are drifting too far afield of the original source material.
But Alan Tudyk as K2, come on. You do not get better than that.
Don't use him. He's a brilliant actor. Of course you should do. Like, why wouldn't you? I'm just wondering if that has a negative impact.
Not in my book.
Because if we continue to allow such things, as we continue to expand the universe, eventually we're all going to be looking at the original and going, well, what the fuck was this? I mean, we were already kind of scratching our heads. I'm confused why Darth Vader and Obi-Wan didn't have a cooler fight scene. I mean,
again, in a remake,
you could fix that.
I'm slowly coming along to that way of thinking, but even the droid's the least thing that I worry about continuity wise. I mean, I look at all the alien species that we've seen in the first year of stuff that you don't see in 4, 5, and 6. I mean,
right.
It really doesn't mean much to me.
At least we got Mon Mothma and Akbar. Come on, that's continuity at its best.
Yeah. Okay,
and Bail Organa.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just have these questions that come up when.
So we have to remember that when the first Star Wars movie came out in the 70s, everything was practical effects. Mm-hmm. Practical effects were very hard and expensive to make. And so I'm going to defend the use of CGI. CGI has an opportunity. As long as it's not done, go overboard, it's okay. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm okay with seeing other ships besides Imperial Star Destroyers. It's logical to assume they would have had different kinds of ships. It would have been logical to assume they might have had other droids. Maybe these droids were maybe a prototype, or they're to see, and maybe that's why we didn't only saw them for a short while.
And I would agree with that, Miles. I think the other thing is we have a story in the original 3 movies that are told on a certain set of planets with a certain set of people. And that's not saying that all species are going to be running around on all those planets. So it's quite possible those species exist, just not in the movie that we're watching. And even that
It's
there's other ships, just not in the area of space that we're flying in.
It's a big
So
galaxy.
It
maybe
is.
the factory that was making the tactical droids got blown up, and that's why we don't see them.
Yep.
There
Or
we go.
Just,
Another
or they
episode.
just- yeah, again, like any resource, you want to put them where you really need them. These things look like they were designed for like urban pacification. The way they deployed them, the way they used them. Well, I don't need them on the Death Star. You know,
Yeah, you don't need them
don't
on
need 'em for a-
Endor.
yeah, I don't need them on Endor. I don't need them for a full military assault on Hoth. You know, I would need them to, you know, control riots on planets that I'm trying to control amongst the civilian populations where stormtroopers might be a little bit overkill. And because we stopped using clones and now I have to actually train and recruit people, you know,
So
this
you're
new
saying
battle
they
droid might work.
SWAT team in a war zone.
No, which is why, well, again, which is why in Andor here, when you saw when they raided that apartment, it wasn't stormtroopers coming to do it. It was regular dudes in armor with specialty weapons that were coming in to do this like a attack team.
They're like a SWAT team or
Yeah,
something.
SWAT team.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna say that they were police droids, and that's why we don't see them in the original.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Perfect.
Perfect.
I like that explanation.
I'm glad we settled that. I mean, that was a.
I'm asking the deep questions.
You
here,
are.
Scott.
No, I'm totally. I'm not begrudging it. I think these are great questions to be asking and talking about. But it is interesting. You were talking about stormtroopers. I mentioned to you, Dave, this morning that. So Kiefer's not watching this with me, but for one moment he sat down, and it was in the flashback scenes for Clea, and they're on that planet, and the stormtroopers are marching these people up to a wall and gunning them down. And Kiefer's response was, "Since when can stormtroopers hit that good?"
because they weren't stormtroopers. They were regular Imperial Army, like you saw in what was that? Solo.
Okay.
When they were drafted in there on the battle planet when he escapes with oh, the hell is his name? When he meets Chewbacca and all that. And
However,
they're in the middle of
remember that
war.
Obi-Wan says only stormtroopers shoot as precise as they do. So just
Well, look,
saying.
again, 1970s crappy writing.
Well, there's a lot of that going on in 1970s in Star Wars and the 80s.
Hold your tongue.
No. Hey, come on. I love Star Wars, but I sat through Revenge of the Sith and I cringed the whole way through the dialogue. Even though some of the dialogue is classic now and memeable and absolutely wonderful lines, the dialogue as a whole, please, George Lucas, don't ever write a script again, you know.
But again, it's a problem of starting a saga in the middle.
Right.
You know, everything you set in that, now you've got to try to play in the before and afterward here to make it legit. You know, it's a bit of an issue.
Yeah. Okay, well, we got on this because we were talking about Luthien dying, right? We had some other predictions that we made. So what were some other predictions that we made that said, you know what? Did they come true? Did they come true? How so?
So with Luthien, I mean, I think we all knew, you know, he was not long for this world. It just, how was his demise going to be? I thought he would go off in a blaze of glory, maybe in his ship fighting TIE fighters and just being overwhelmed by them. No, he has one more confrontation, and it's with the Ice Queen herself, Dedra, and you know, he takes one of his artifacts and stabs himself, and you know, just it was an interesting choice. I was just like, is that the way I wanted to see Luthien die or not? I'm not sure.
He died.
But...
Well, he does die protecting the cause, right? This is he dies with the information that he has, and you know, And this is important. This in a sense is a reason why Deidre, her demise is kind of wrapped up in his demise.
Right. And it shows, it goes to play to his, regardless of how everybody felt about him and everybody's, you know, goofy experiences and their opinions on the man, no one can doubt his dedication to the cause, where he wasn't even trying to scramble to protect his own ass. He took his own life to protect the cause
in a violent way.
In a violent way. So he was a true believer and a true martyr for the rebellion.
Yeah, very true. Very true. What did you think of the Ice Queen's kind of final fate? She's not real dead, but she's imprisoned there at the end.
The same prison Cassian was in season 1.
So it's like full circle almost.
Yeah. It was very fitting to me, and very, very symbolic to the Empire, where you can be the most loyal, dedicated one to serving that empire, to flushing out its enemies, but that empire is built on power and people climbing the ladder and wanting power. And when you run afoul of someone in that line, you could be the most dedicated soldier there, and you've become a problem, and we're going to put you away.
Well, and if you fail,
especially that,
your loyalty doesn't matter. Your success is all. When you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or die. And she wound up in prison.
It makes the speech that Major Partagaz is listening to in the last episode, like about power and control. It makes it all the more poignant.
There will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And then remember this. The Imperial need for control is so desperate because it is so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort. It breaks. It leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But
it's absolutely.
Well, even he met his end because, I guess he didn't want to go through the process of either being executed or going through a trial or anything like that. He just,
he shoots himself, right?
He offed himself in the big room. And it's interesting. The one guy was with the stormtroopers. The stormtroopers hear the sound of the blaster, and the guy's like, no, just, let it go.
Interesting.
But to me, it really showed what the rebellion was fighting. I think this empire is what it's willing to do to control the populace. I mean, it turned Gorman into, it demonized Gorman and used that to justify it to basically take over, and because it needed the planet's resources to build the Death Star.
Right. So what did you think of our prediction about Cassian's wife?
I wasn't. I wasn't expecting that.
No. Which there's been a lot of talk online
So Chrissy,
about
just so
that.
because you didn't watch it, Cassian's wife, who is Bix, um, at one point she decides to leave. In the last 3 episodes, she leaves him because she wants to fight for the rebellion. I guess he's kind of wishy-washy at that point. And she disappears for 2.5 episodes, and time jumps. And the last scene with her, she's holding a baby. Cassian's baby, supposedly.
Well, it's been.
Who knows? I mean,
You're led to believe that it's Cassian's because it was about a year jump from when she left to when we saw her again, and the kid looked to be about a year old.
That's 3 months longer.
Yeah, but the kid's born.
The kid only looks like 3 months old. I mean, he's a baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of chatter online saying that this kid grows up to be Poe Dameron.
Really?
Poe's backstory: both of his parents died fighting for the rebellion.
Well, she doesn't die.
Not that we know. Eventually, she will.
I don't think it's Poe Dameron, but it would be great to see it tied in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought too.
I mean, it would be kind of cute, although
maybe it's Rey's parents.
No.
Pigment's a little off.
Yeah.
Also, didn't they say that? Yeah, one of them would have to be a Palpatine clone.
Yeah, it was Palpatine's grandson or nephew or grandson.
Yeah.
Or no, it was Palpatine's son. Palpatine's son, because Rey's his granddaughter.
Yeah.
So that would have to make. So I don't think it can be Rey. I think we've already determined that, unless Cassian's a Palpatine clone.
Maybe it's a child born of the Force or midichlorians.
If only M was here.
Yeah, I think that's the best explanation that we're gonna get tonight.
Midichlorian baby.
Yep.
The chosen one.
Now you've triggered a migraine.
Chrissy is out at this point. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I did not expect it. Actually, I watched an interview and heard rumors that it was happening, forgot about it, and then when I saw, I'm like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Were there other people that so Mon Mothma's speech to the Senate and kidnapping into the rebellion? Like, I wasn't sure. We all know that she ends up in the rebellion. How did you guys like about the way that played out?
I liked it. I liked that she was able. She gave tried to give a speech on what the truth of what was going on in Gorman, and there was a lot of effort by the Imperials to try to suppress it. I mean, they're shutting power off. And
she's blaming Palpatine directly.
And I like that Cassian comes to the rescue, and he's not sure if her driver is, an Imperial plant or not, so he just shoots him. And
well, no, she tells him.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, she does tell him. Yeah, so but she's kind of appalled that he's just like gunning people down right in front of her, which is it shows that she's coming from this highborn society, right? She hasn't been encountering the rough side of the rebellion because she's been in the political machinations and the political chess game of the rebellion up to that point. And so this is kind of a rude awakening, which she's kind of throwing in here.
Yeah. Well, and again, like I talked about the last time, with any kind of movement like this, it does show the real dichotomy between the ones who are on the ground fighting and dying for this cause and the ones who aren't but are still fighting, and really how much each of them have to lose, and how each side doesn't understand or fully appreciate what the other side does. Where ones like Mon Mothma will think guys like Saw Gerrera and Luthen, and guys like even Cassian and them, are little. They need to slow down. We're not ready yet. We can't do this too much. This is going to be a problem. And the guys on the ground think that you're just sitting up there, sitting fat on the pony, and not contributing enough to the cause. Where you see now the guys on the ground, they have their lives to lose. I mean, they're hiding away on different planets in little junk safe houses and everything like that, trying to survive. But the ones like Mon have everything else to lose. They're worried about disappearing in the middle of the night because the ISB's onto them and they come and take them, never to be seen again. They're born of this high power, and if it was just their life to lose, that's one thing. But to lose everything else they have is, for any human, is a much more frightening thing. And to see her stand up in the middle of the Senate and directly attack Palpatine and what's going on, you're in the middle of enemy territory.
Yeah. I guess I guess I have a question. The only question I had tied in with that story is, of course, Bail Organa, of course, says, I'm not going to be, I'm not leaving, Coruscant, right? But we see him there somehow at the Battle of Yavin, right?
He wasn't leaving yet.
Yeah. So he's clearly at Yavin in the planning stages. He's clearly still a diplomat if we go with what's happening in A New Hope, right? Because Tantive 4 is still a diplomatic vessel at that point. So he hasn't left the Senate, but somehow he is able to kind of get out, maybe incognito, to get to Yavin.
Well, and it had to be because his daughter, Leia, was still claiming to be a member of the Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan, and they hadn't arrested her at the time. So it's interesting it'd be interesting to really hear and figure out exactly how all that happened. But he very well may have been there and stayed in the Senate just to feed intelligence to the rebellion, to do what he can do from that level.
Right.
Because his cover wasn't blown yet.
Yeah. So how did you guys feel? I heard there was a little bit of pushback online I saw with recasting Bail Organa instead of using the original actor.
I would have preferred if they could have got Jimmy Smits. I mean, yeah. But Benjamin Bratt, he's a decent actor, and both Smits and Bratt are of Latino ethnicity, so they got an actor who kind of like Jimmy Smits in a way, I guess. Not totally, but how do you replace Jimmy Smits?
I wonder if he just wasn't available.
So this is it. I just found out. It said Jimmy Smits was unavailable to reprise his role as Bail Organa in Andor Season 2 due to scheduling conflict. Showrunner Tony Gilroy explained that Smits was committed to another project, and despite their efforts, they could not find a way to accommodate his schedule, ultimately leading to the decision to recast the role with Benjamin Bratt.
Curse those scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like he was opposed to it, or it sounds like they wanted him actually as first choice. It certainly would have kept the continuity between Obi-Wan and then the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it worked out. I mean, I didn't dislike his character.
Oh, I didn't either. It didn't bother me.
No, and
I didn't notice.
Yeah, you didn't notice.
completely fooled me. Excellent on the makeup
Yeah.
department.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we make any other predictions here? I don't remember. I don't think those were the major ones that we were hitting on.
Yeah, I think we got him.
The I did want to ask. That's going to slip my mind now. Um, about something that I was just thinking of. So it was nice to see Saul Guerrera back in his role.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he
And
was.
I love that argument he was having with the rebel leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it really does set up and I think maybe this is what I wanted to say. It sets up the end of the final episode, and the final episode does a beautiful job as an homage of tying it into Rogue One. And the way it sets up the different people, what they're doing, what they're being called to do. And yeah.
And he's leaving to go meet the guy he shoots in the alley.
He is.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I thought that they did a nice job as much as they could to kind of bring it full circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very, very well done.
Yeah.
I have zero complaints about this show.
So, do we have any critiques about these last 6 episodes? I know the first one you heard my critiques about in the first 3 episodes. That sophomore episode just really felt like it was slowing. All we had was Cassian sitting in hillbilly rebel town, and I just did, but I didn't feel like here. I felt like every episode here kept moving.
The pacing had definitely improved a lot.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, you're the closer you're getting to the Battle of Yavin, as the rebellion is really starting to pick up and gain steam, and things are escalating. Things are escalating, and this show really reflected that. I think, where we're starting off, like I said, we're starting off slow, doing our little side hustles and our missions, and then as things start to happen, Gorman was the big kickoff. Okay, the Empire just stepped over the line here, big time. We have to respond and do something, and everything starts ramping up. Everything starts ramping up, and it felt that way through the pace of the whole show. Especially jumping a year in between.
Yeah, what I liked about that is every time you're getting 1 year closer, year closer to the Battle of Yavin.
Yep. Yeah, it did really good. Oh, the other one we talked about was Dedra's boyfriend.
Oh yeah, that is who is that?
Cyril,
yeah.
Yes.
How he got sniped in the head.
Yeah. So I was kind of he has this falling out with the Ice Queen, right? And he goes out and he's like walking among the rebels as chaos is just ensuing. He's really struggling, I think, to align himself with the Imperial cause. And so I felt like when he got knocked off, like this was like I felt like and I mean this is what happens, right? He gets caught in the conflict, he can't make a decision, and then boom, he's off, right? And so I get it on one hand, but on one hand I was like wanting to see him, join up, but that would have been problematic because you don't see him in Rogue One or anything like that. But
yeah,
well, I thought it was funny when he has a fight with Cassian, and then Cassian, they're fighting, and Cassian's like, "Who the hell are you?" I mean,
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I thought that whole scene in that episode where they completely set up that false flag event at that town square was just like you just smelled it coming a mile away. They started removing barricades, letting all the people coming in. No one's listening. They're telling them, "Don't! It's a trap!" It's a trap, and they don't. No one listens, and they're kind of like, oh, they're gonna start something here. This is gonna be a false flag. So the Empire needed on this planet for them to fully start strip mining the place. Basically, they needed to do it under the guise of suppressing a rebellion.
Mm.
Okay, so they kind of allow a little cell to form and kind of feed it a little bit. That's what this guy Cyril was part of doing. And then as they're getting people riled up, the Empire is gaining a bigger presence. At one point, they had barricades around this town square, which was a significant place for the locals. And they bring in this special forces group, so to speak, and they start removing barricades, opening the town square back up again. So the people decided we're going to go protest. So they all come in, protest, and some of them are the members of this rebel cell, and they start singing songs, peacefully protesting.
That's one.
And then as one does, and then all of a sudden you start seeing stormtroopers coming and blocking exits, positioning themselves in odd places. They send this squad of, Imperial police officers out into the crowd there, kind of setting up, and you're just kind of waiting. People are getting a little rowdy. Nothing crazy yet. No violence, nothing, just getting rowdy. And they send a squad of rookie cops out into the middle of this. And then all of a sudden there's an Imperial sniper on the roof that starts taking shots at people, incites the crowd. They start throwing rocks, some of them pulling out their own blasters, shooting back, and now all of a sudden you have a problem on your hand. And that's when they release K2 and those other pacification droids or whatever they are, and it's just a complete melee. It's like, government started a false flag operation at a protest to incite a riot for their own political gain. Oh, this is right out of the paper.
That would never happen here in the United States of America.
But yeah, it was a very good scene.
Yeah, I was like thinking of the different fates of characters that you guys were talking about, and you have like one. It sounds like she ended up getting basically betrayed by the Empire she's serving. One person can't make up his mind and he gets shot anyways. Another person dies fighting for the cause. It's interesting underlying theme and message of, like when you have a tyrannical government, the chances of death, no matter where you are or where your stand, is going to be there. So you may as well pick a side that's worthy of that.
Mm-hmm.
And being in a position of power isn't going to necessarily protect you from losing everything.
Yeah.
That's right.
It is. I mean, I think the entire story of Andor is such a treatise on the balance of power and revolution, and the juxtaposition of what that looks like in any society. Um, even like you look at America's past, you look at many other countries, and just how revolution is fought and handled, and it's almost like you're watching a classic textbook exploration of that. And I think because of it, it's the nitty gritty of Star Wars, and I don't know if this really, while I was not a fan of the original, the first six, or maybe the early couple, I felt burned slow. In the end, this season was for me even better than season one, and I think rightly so. I mean, season one is pretty far away. You're establishing stuff. Cassian's trying to figure out what he's doing, and but this one definitely, it definitely led us up to Rogue One, and I was hooked.
Yep,
But yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. Any other thoughts about the way the show played out? What we liked, what we didn't like about the show?
I liked what they did as far as a lot of this was pointing to the Death Star, and a lot of the plans. I mean, a lot of the way the Empire was basically covering up and lying about the Death Star, and that became a major plot point with um, this information had to get to the rebellion. It's like, okay, we have a bigger problem, and just how I'm glad they brought to the Death Star.
Yeah, so I'm too. I guess my question is, you're the frickin' Empire. Why do you need to hide that you're creating a Death Star? Just questioning. Like I'm not trying to be facetious here, but I'm thinking like you're the biggest controlling force in the galaxy.
Because the knowledge of such a weapon being created would take too many people. The open knowledge of it would take far too many people who are loyal to the Empire and cause that loyalty to fracture. Because wait a minute, if we're, especially depending on what people in the Senate are being told, if they're being told, which I believe they were at the time, because
It was like an
they would
energy.
have to.
It was an
Yeah,
energy something.
but if all of these acts of rebellion that are popping up across the Empire are, they have to be being told that they are small groups of malcontents, you know, really not a threat, because we're the Empire. We're gonna quell it. It's not a big deal, nothing to worry about. But you're building a giant super weapon that can destroy a planet. Why do we need that? Why are we doing that? And you start to have people question. And when you start asking questions, that leads to answers, and then more and more questions on top of that, that lead to them losing, like, okay, this is not right, and more systems falling into rebellion, and you lose your grasp on power. That's why it has to be done in secret.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I just think, I mean, I think building a Death Star in public that can destroy planets, like, okay, there's only so much tyranny one can endure before eventually it's like, nope, that you can't have that. You cannot have a weapon that can destroy planets. That's just, I mean, there's a that I think would be the last straw, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we'll tolerate this tyranny up to a point. We'll give up our free speech. We'll give up our right to assemble, and we'll give up certain things because we'd rather stay alive. But if you build this thing where you could, this is how you're going to afford it. It's too much power for one person to have, or the government to have, and we're not going to allow it.
Which, if you recall, in episode 4, when they're all sitting around with Moff Tarkin and Vader and all them around the big conference table, at one point, after the Death Star was completed, and it's going to start being used, that's when the Emperor dissolved the Senate and put systems under control of imperial governors, that the next hammer fell.
Yeah, they wanna show that there's a rebellion so that they have enough fear that people want to give up their rights, but they don't actually want a real rebellion.
God, I love this freaking series so damn much.
So if I were to ask you, Dave, to rate it at a scale of 1 to 5, I'm sure it would be low, like a 1.
Oh yeah, a 1 with a 5 in front of it.
Oh, 51. You got it.
51.
51. But I
Out of 100, so it's failing.
yeah, still failing at that time.
Yeah.
With another 0 after the 51, making it
Another
510, and therefore it's better.
510.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Dave, you were really, as a general rule, you were happy with the series. Where does this series? I'm going to make you do something terrible here. Where does this series rank in your love of the various series that have been released? Is it your number one, or is it, or like, where does that fit?
Okay, so I'm as of right now today, this would be out of all the different series that have been released, this one would be at the very top for story. For story.
Okay.
Ahsoka would be at number 1 for characters. And good story that one's gone through. But as far as just the sheer universe expanding material, this one for me is at the top.
It's at the top. Okay.
At the top.
All right. Yeah, Miles, how about for you? Where would you rate this show at a scale of 1 to 5?
This is a hard one. I love Rogue One, and this series is a good companion piece to it. But there are times this show just dragged, and I was not enjoying it. I was just like, there was just so much what I felt like to me filler material, and I just probably I was always like more Star Wars, but I think we probably could have told this story with less episodes. The series itself gets a B- for me.
Ooh.
Now it's still a high grade, but it's just the show is just very slow at times, and not to me. Some people like a slow burn. This thing was burning very slowly for me. And I just thought, now these last 6 episodes, the pacing was great. I was engaged. I was looking forward to the next one. The 6 ones, the episode before that, I was like, oh, okay. I just, like I said, at times I felt like I had to slog through it. And as far as rating this with other shows, I think I like The Mandalorian, the first season, the best. That's where I am.
Chrissy, I know you haven't watched all of Andor, but in your experience with Andor, where would you rate it, and where would you put it among the other Star Wars series that you have watched?
I mean, I think I was with Miles. I think I didn't really watch much beyond like episodes 1 or 2 because it was a very slow burn, and I had been so disappointed by other Star Wars shows. I didn't know if it was going to be worth my time with how slow of a pace it was, because I don't mind slow burn of things. The good Lord knows I read all of Wheel of Time, and those slow of burn as you could possibly make.
Oh man.
So the good Lord knows I can go through a slow burn and be perfectly fine with it. So, I mean, Dave's ringing endorsement, and I definitely do like exploration of politics and rebellions and getting into those nitty gritty things. So, I mean, I'll probably give it a middling grade at the moment. I may, because of Dave's ringing endorsement, revisit it. Um, Although if I don't like it, Dave, I'm gonna blame you for losing what 9, 10
Hours.
hours of my life I can't get
Listen,
out.
you just need to go back and do some self-reflection on your taste in Star Wars, and really,
Oh, wow.
really.
And Shulagumzi?
This is coming from Baby Spice. You know it.
It is. It is. I really think you will not be disappointed.
You will
Like,
you will enjoy the political aspect of it.
And with
This man has no taste. Why are we even asking him? He didn't like
Wow.
He got a standing ovation at multiple international film festivals. I will have you know.
listen, but when
And-
it's
and
coming to
it's not
this,
Hey, but Chrissy, where would you rank Andor then in the various the various Star Wars franchises, a TV series that you watched?
I mean, I'd probably stick it in the middle at the moment. It's definitely not like I'm with Miles. I really liked Mandalorian. It was the first season of that. It's probably like my favorite thus far of like the TV series. But I've also not watched as many of the TV series just because so often I have just been like, oh, this is not as good as the books that I read when I was younger, and I'm so salty that they took them away and said that they're no longer canon, and in my mind they are. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the legends, the legends. Right. Yeah,
they did Legends so dirty.
they did. I agree. I agree.
I Mara Jade cannot simply be stuck aside, people.
I would not be
And
surprised if we see her make an appearance sometime in Thrawn's
it
world.
doesn't matter at this point. They ruined Luke. So what?
Well, it won't be a Luke relationship, but well, they recast Luke, right? I hear her.
recast
You
Luke.
can't have
Yeah.
Mara Jade and not a Luke relation.
Yeah,
Recast Luke.
recast Luke.
Get that whiny Mark Hamill out of there.
That's right. So let me tell you about my. Let me tell you what I would rate this at. So I understand where Miles is at. If we rate this out of 5 stars, I am definitely giving this a 4, maybe a 4.5. And the only reason I won't give it a 5 is because of some of the slow points on it. But I agree, Dave. And this is the story and the development and the way it builds into the entire Rogue One universe. Fantastic, and I definitely loved it from that end. For me, the fantasy element of Star Wars is important, and therefore, while I love the political machinations, I do I do miss the Force. I miss the Force being a part of a show, and I understand why they didn't, and I understand most of the rebellion was they were not Force wielders, and so like I get that, I get why this was here, but that is my Star Wars, and therefore for me like dealing with like I would have ranked. There were parts of Obi-Wan I didn't like, but there was a lot of Obi-Wan that I did like, and it was just some of the battle scenes between Hayden Christensen and Ian McGregor were just, Ewan McGregor were just fantastic. And then I'm a fan of Ahsoka. Ahsoka's up there with me, and I hesitate. Bless you. I hesitate to put these above Andor because Andor was such a solid show, but it definitely was missing something that was quintessential Star Wars, minus the witty droid, which I absolutely appreciated in this series. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts. You don't have to agree with them, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Was there a Force wielder in the Han Solo movie?
Was there? I'm sorry, again.
Oh, Darth Maul.
Can we really?
Oh, in his cameo at the end, yeah.
So he was. There's force wielders
No.
around, but
The answer's no.
the answer's no.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's why the movie bombed. There was no force. Just kidding, but other reasons it bombed. But and it wasn't. And to be honest, that movie. Let me defend it. Was not as bad as people said it was. Just
no, I love it.
Yeah. So
I enjoyed it too. I mean, it's not the best Star Wars movie, but it's not the worst though.
it's better than Ewoks in Endor. Just saying.
That's not saying much.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Ewoks in it. Yeah.
I do remember watching the Ewoks in Andor movie.
We should review that, both of them, for like an episode sometime.
I know they got to be on Disney Plus.
They
right?
are. We should just torture ourselves by watching them sometime.
We totally. I really do wonder as an adult because I only watched it when I was.
Yeah,
like,
I was
a
younger
kid.
too, and I'm sure they're terrible, but
And I think I don't remember like. I remember not like loving them. I remember being a little bit disappointed with them, but I don't
Alec
remember.
McGinnis, wasn't Alec McGinnis in it?
So
Maybe
I think
not.
we should, and I should just like as an adult be like, how bad is? Because I don't remember it being terrible,
Yeah.
but I was also probably like 8
Right.
at the time.
Yeah. Well, before we exit this evening, we typically, when we talk about a show like this, we read like bad reviews. So I thought we would end by picking one of Dave's favorite segments of the show is the bad reviews. So I'm just going to pick like 4 bad reviews that we'll review and understand this is not a reflection of the way the diner actually feels, but just to kind of comment on people's thoughts.
You
But
should always look at the bad reviews to
That's
see what the worst is.
yeah. All right. So here's one. 1 star out of 10. Slow Wars, an Andor story. Andor is literally the most boring Star Wars I've ever watched, and it's such a shame as I was looking forward to it. I just sat here and watched 3 episodes. I honestly can't see me bothering with any more. To say the pacing is slow is an understatement. The main character goes to a place, has a conversation, then goes to another place and does the same. Very little else happens and any significance until the last 10 minutes of episode 3. With some decent editing, you could easily combine 120 minutes, 3 episodes, into 30 minutes of story. In addition to the slow pace, the acting and the casting choices seem questionable at best. Some actors are wooden, and others are hamming it up to the max. The only real positive I can add is that the CGI and sets look good, but that's about it. Such a shame to start on such a low for what could have been a promising series.
What the hell is this idiot watching?
Maybe it's a different Andor, just saying.
I don't know, Dave. I seem to remember reaching a similar conclusion of this is very boring, and I think I'm going to go to sleep now.
Look, okay, he's talking about the first 3 episodes being slow. Yeah, did you watch more than that before you wrote this review?
No, only 3 episodes.
That's why they stopped. I stopped.
Just so you
I there's not
know
enough-
that the people that read his comment, only 7 found it helpful. 150 said this was not helpful at all.
Well, good, because it's not. It's ridiculous. So you know, I understand for this pedestrian mentality, there's not enough laser swords and pew pews running around and force choking people for stuff. Okay, fine. If that's what you want, great. I get it. But the whole premise of this show is you're in the shit of the rebellion against a mammoth empire. Yeah, it's going to be a little slow. It's going to be a little subterfuge. You can't just go running out there every freaking episode. Like,
No laser
I get it.
swords.
That's not I get it, but that's not the point of this.
Well, these people also probably watched Clone Wars, and that's all that was.
I know, and that was great because that's what it was. It was a freaking cartoon.
Exactly.
And it was amazing. The stories were amazing.
I'm just saying.
They could have trimmed the fat though.
They put it out.
Yeah.
There was a lot of material that, like I said, it just felt like filler.
Well, let me read our next review. This also scored a 1 out of 10. It's titled Yondor. Yondor. The only science fiction angle they captured with this release is showing the viewer what time dilation means. When I say this is boring, I mean it's boring as hell. Complete absent of the Empire's spaceships, action, and adventure. It's like being trapped in a dying mall in Boise, Idaho. Except you might see a stormtrooper if you wandered past the Sharper Image store. And I'm sure as hell there aren't any in this. And don't come at me with you need to watch the first 3 hours, bro trash. If you can't establish the characters and story and advance the plot prior to 3 hours, you made big mistakes in your writers, the pacing, which Disney most definitely did with this. Keep digging, Disney. You almost completely gutted this IP.
Love it.
Okay, so Junior here has the attention span of a 4-year-old. I mean, do you want us to put you a Star Wars show in YouTube Shorts? Like, is that all you're able to comprehend?
Actually, that would be a really brilliant idea.
No, that would be shit. That would be total and utter crap.
I like this. Like,
That would be total crap.
I'm
I'm
like a
sorry.
Star Wars like pretend influencer, being like, I think you're onto something. I think you should do it.
God.
I'm just saying that they have a limited time on this earth, Dave, and they want to be able to get to the story.
I get that. Like, I understand that. But even in the slow episodes where there's a lot of fat, there's a lot of stuff happening there. There's a lot. You're be able to get into the mind of what's going on here. You know, if you're running everything fast paced, then I've got nothing but like a sci-fi shoot 'em up that happens to have a Star Wars skin on it. Well, they're a dime a dozen. Like, whatever. What's the next one?
This review also a 1 out of 10. Simply is titled Disappointed beyond belief. The characters melted into each other as they were void of any interesting storylines. The highlands and the lowlands. Wait a minute, this is Star Wars, not Scotland. The costumes were borrowed from a Viking set. The story was very pedestrian and never had me hanging on what might happen next. I really couldn't care less. It's like a crime drama, not Star Wars. When is Disney, spelled D-Y-S-N-E-Y, going to stop sucking this great franchise dry? When are we going to get a new trilogy with new stories, original stories that haven't made it to the big screen? When are you going to stop destroying this great blueprint that was originally laid down?
When are you going to learn how to spell Disney? Like, you can't spell... Oh my God, the intelligence level here. New stories. That's exactly what this was. This is new stories. This hasn't been told on screen yet. Like, oh my God.
All right. I have one more. We're going to end with...
I get more frustrated with the Star Wars fandom than I ever do with the Trek base, and we are the most contentious group of a-holes that ever walked the earth.
Amen.
No,
Amen.
I really do think the Star Wars fandom takes the cake for that.
No, we'll argue about every little thing about it, but these people are just crazy.
Yeah.
You can't please us, and that's what makes us great.
Yep.
Oh,
That's why we can't have nice things.
That's
this
right.
is my favorite segment that we
This is-
ever do.
There's
It
a,
really,
there's
really is.
one more. We'll read one more and then we'll wrap up the show here because there's tons of them. Immigration visas in Star Wars? So tragedy befell this show like it does with other shows from Hollywood. They throw out a politically neutral season 1, and if it succeeds, then season 2 will be filled with Hollywood politics. Number 1, visas. Yes, in Star Wars, we now have an immigration allegory, and they couldn't even come up with a different name for the document. Even though this takes place long ago in a galaxy far, far away, what a coincidence that they came up with the word visa too, right? Sarcasm. It's just so stupid. Oh, and also... Go ahead.
They do realize that all the words that are used in Star Wars are English.
Yeah.
Which is this time period.
Yeah. We're ignoring that. You're thinking too much about it. Oh, and also,
You're not using a word in English when they're all speaking English, and then say that we shouldn't be speaking English because it's a galaxy far, far, long time ago. That would be like saying I complain that my Viking show from History Channel is using English words when I want it all in Old Norse.
Fair enough.
Yes, I'm an Imperial trooper. Show me your papers. And the fans sitting there watching the show going, what the fuck's up? Papers. What is it? Oh, a visa. Oh, just say visa.
Except we do not use come up with weird alien words. Like, my goodness gracious. Again, this isn't the Wheel of Time, people.
This is why I drink when we do this show.
That is, he wasn't done talking about the visas, by the way.
Oh, really? Good. Oh, please.
he said, oh, and also, of course, it's the Empire who are enforcing the visa requirement because right-wingers have to be evil. Number 2.
Oh, God, not one of these people.
Number 2, patriarchy. There's a forced marriage taking place in one of the plot lines. In another one of the plot line, a man tries to force himself onto a woman. Yep, we're bringing sex into Star Wars because Hollywood is obsessed with children learning about sex.
What?
No, okay.
This is for children.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not for kids.
Okay, so I don't know who this guy is, but if by some random chance you happen to be listening, brother, as a fellow right-winger here, who is very critical of wokeness in television, especially Star Wars, being one of my very favorite themes here. Dude, of course it's the Empire that's regulating visas. Why? Because they're the legitimate government. Well, the legitimate government in the galaxy, right? That's why they're doing that. It's not a right-wing thing. It's because that's what a government will do to monitor you from traveling from place to place, right? Okay. Not a Republican thing. It's a government thing. Okay. And yes, the forced marriage. Okay, that was a cultural thing in that planet, and the kids were old enough to wed. I mean, it wasn't that long ago in our history where, people were getting married at 16, 17 years old in human history here, right? That's not that crazy.
Little Mermaid, she specifically says, I'm not a child anymore, I'm 16 years old, and the movie ends with her getting married. And I watched that as a child.
Right. It's not a crazy thing. And honestly, if you're worried about that, then maybe they would have depicted them having sex before they got married. But instead, no, they're actually getting married. It might be forced, but they're getting married. And the poor girl who was about to be raped by an Imperial soldier, well,
she kicks his ass.
You're depicting what an oppressive military and government would do to its people. There's no subtle message in that. It's a way of showing the oppression and the atrocities that are being committed there. And what happened to that guy? He didn't even get his crank out of his pants before she whipped his ass all over the damn farm.
Yes.
Yep.
All right? So dial it back there, brother. I'm with you. I understand. But, dude, the woke demon ain't hiding around every single corner. You just choose to see it. Just like Hitler ain't hiding around every corner, and everybody wearing a red hat ain't Hitler. Sorry. It doesn't exist that way. Let's dial it back a bit. Watch it for what it is. And I hopefully whoever's listening to this kind of does reach if you're feeling these same kind of thoughts, because just relax. It's okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah,
rant over.
It's fine. I don't think I need to read any more of the episode, any more of the review.
I really shouldn't drink when I do this show.
My problem with you, Dave, is you're such a fence sitter.
I wish you would take a stand, Dave.
That is one thing I have never been accused of, is not having an opinion on something.
Well,
I have an opinion on the show, and I didn't even watch it.
Yeah, there you go. See? I'm just going to read one more headline, and then we're going to wrap up the show. It says, Horrible. Star Wars Christmas special had a better plot. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for listening to these bad reviews. Chrissy's giving that reviewer the middle finger, which you can't see because of the podcast. But
I'm giving the middle finger. I'm just moving my hand around.
right. We know how that goes. But
If I'm giving you the middle finger, you will know.
Just
see, right there.
Yeah.
She is.
You
Gosh, we
will
got to
know
start shooting video for this show,
you
Dave.
will clearly see it.
I am. I just have never edited to put it online
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah, that's all right. But yeah, so we are. But anyways, those are the bad reviews. It sounds like in general, even Miles, who didn't rank this very high, you still liked it, Miles, right?
I did. I mean, you have to. You have to have a little patience. Like the earlier episodes, it was just too slow for me.
What Miles is saying, you can't be a TikTok generation and watch this and enjoy it. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm gonna go with that as being accurate.
And I guess the question is, so could they sped up the slow parts, or were the slow parts intentionally there to develop the story? And this becomes a question that we really didn't talk about. And I would argue that there were some parts that I would have trimmed down personally, but maybe that comes down to our personal taste in storytelling. I don't know.
Right. And that's a fine disagreement to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I read all 14, 15 books of Wheel of Time, and
Fair enough. Say no more.
Parts that, like, I don't want anyone ever saying, like, oh, you can't go through slog. Bitch, 800 plus pages of shit happening in the plot.
Yeah.
And I do mean that. Like, you could just throw out at least 2 of those books.
Yeah.
So probably close to 1,600 pages worth of stuff. But yeah, so I mean, if someone tells me us getting through the slog is worth it, or getting through, I mean, I will say that Wheel of Time is definitely worth it. Dave is telling me that getting through the slow parts is worth it, so I will probably give it another go. I just wasn't willing because of how. And maybe the people who also stopped after the first couple episodes had the same feeling that I did, is there has just been too much inconsistency in the quality of Star Wars that we've been getting, that I'm not willing to commit beyond 3 episodes if I'm not seeing the quality and stuff up front, which is sad, because I do think that you can have really good stories that have slow parts, and sometimes the slowness is necessary for that momentum and for that building, and does have real deep characters, and there are parts and characterizations and information that you don't realize are so necessary to the later parts unless they would get removed, and then you'd be like, wait a minute, I feel like we should have known a little bit more about that, or we should have gotten a little bit more backstory, there should have been a little bit more development. And so sometimes you don't notice how important something is until its absence. I'm sure if Dave and his crew stopped showing up to work, people might not notice the work he does around the school on a daily basis, but trust me, they're going to notice if he and the rest of the crew don't show up.
Fair enough.
Oh, don't always diss the slowness.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you have 1,600 pages where you can totally burn and it would be fine.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much for listening to us rant on about Andor and the things that we loved about it in general. We loved it, and also the things that we felt were maybe needed a little bit of help. And the bad reviews that we just read here as well is always entertaining. But I believe that's about it. That'll take it out of the show, and be paying attention online. We'll tell you what we're going to review in the upcoming episodes. So, Miles, why don't you take us out of the show?
All right. Till next time, good night and good luck.
We'll see ya.
Leave your tips on the table.
And go boldly.
we're gonna do part 2, the last 6 episodes of Andor, which Chrissy has totally watched front, backwards, inside out. So she's gonna question and interrogate our thoughts as we go through this. So.
Sure.
Because the spice must flow. The spice must flow.
How the hell am I baby spice, by the way?
It's that face. It's that face, David.
It really is. Just shave and
Yeah.
be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm perfect.
That's why he doesn't shave.
You've never seen me without a beard, have you?
No.
I bet we could put a filter on that takes away that beard, David.
You can, and it's frightening.
Is it a baby face?
Oh, I look like I'm freaking 12.
See, and this is why you're baby spice.
That's why I don't shave.
Oh my.
Which Scott, I had to either do posh or ginger spice, because I mean, so I went posh.
Yeah.
Oh, posh, definitely. I mean,
Oh,
we're moving to Portugal.
wow. Wow.
Gary, Miles is sport, you more posh, you're baby.
I don't know. I'm struggling with Miles' of sport.
Hey, karate, man.
Oh, karate. That's right. That does make sense.
Exactly. Which one of us here does sport?
I run.
Ain't my fat ass, I'll tell you that right now.
I run.
We eliminated Dave right off the bat. We eliminated me right away.
So if we're playing Hunger Games, we want Dave to be in our arena. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, see, now you're throwing weapons into the mix. Now, you're
It changes the game. Changes the game.
changes the game.